Welcome to the Woodwind Doubling Channel, episode 24. Today we're going to talk about bis keys for clarinet. Now, it's not a standard item on most clarinets to have a bis key. I've seen them on some older Boozy and Hawkes models, and on that what they would do is add a little bit of a sliver key in between your first finger and the pad that's just below the first finger ring. Now, that meant that you could just slide over onto that, and it facilitated all sorts of trills and tremolos for you. For example, on a standard B-flat clarinet, it's impossible to go from a C to an E-flat. There's just no way to make that work and sound nice unless you do a little bit of gymnastics here and lean over onto this key. Really doesn't work very well. Other alternate fingerings don't work well. There's some other trills that are also very difficult to do. D-flat to E-flat trill, and in the upper register, A-flat to B-flat. Now, there is a fingering for A-flat to B-flat that works. If you've been presented with that trill and you haven't figured a way to do it yet, here's the standard way to get that done. What you're going to do is finger A-flat and trill your index finger. Works just fine. It doesn't work in the low register because of the differences in response and tuning of the registers. Doesn't work for E-flat or D-flat to E-flat. It's rather more like a tremolo from a C-sharp to an E. So it doesn't work there, but you can get away with it in the upper register. Now, this is my Ridenour clarinet. This is my standard go-to instrument right now, and it doesn't have the bis key on it. I got that and attached it to my Jupiter clarinet. Now here's the Jupiter clarinet, and I'm going to show you some inset shots so you get a look at this. It's a nice little silver tab, and it slides over there. So it's quite easy to do by yourself. It might sound complicated to do, but basically you just unscrew this rod, pull it out, this key flips away, you slide that over, tighten the screw, and it all goes into place rather nicely. And it's got a little sculpted platform for your fingers, so you can then slide that onto there. Now, you don't want to use this the way that some saxophone players do, where they'll actually play chromatic passages just by sliding the bis. You want to save this for trills and tremolos and things like that, and occasions when you can't do it, because the tuning is not perfect. It is very good, but it's not perfect, and there's some places it works better than others. Now, for example, the trills and tremolos we were talking about, D-flat to E-flat. Very easy now. And you notice I just trill the middle finger. It does help keep it a little bit better in tune, and I don't have three fingers flying around like that. Now, you can also do a tremolo from the C to E-flat. Now, you could try it with the middle finger, just the middle finger coming off, or possibly try it like this. Works pretty good with the C finger down. It's quite sharp without that finger down. So if you're going to use it for a C to E flat, just trill the middle finger. It's technically easier anyways. D flat to E flat works great like that. Now, upper register. That means we've got a couple different options for that A flat to B flat trill that I was telling you about earlier, because it's still valid to do this. But we can do this. Works very well. You can also do the tremolo up there. Now, in the upper register, because it responds a bit differently, I think it works better to take all the fingers off. You can also use it for some other fingered passages. From a G to an A flat to a B flat and back. Works in the bottom register too. So there you have it, a great place to use the bis key on the clarinet. It's an inexpensive modification to do. You can install it yourself. Steve Fox sells these for, I believe, about 60 Canadian and around that area in silver plate. You can also get it unplated if you want to match the finish of your instrument. If you have gold-plated keys, you could then take it to a jeweler and have it gold-plated, and it would match up nicely. But it's super easy to install, and it's one of those things where I think, why did I wait so long to get this? Now, one of the reasons I did wait so long is that I've known about this type of key for a while, but often I would just pull out a different instrument I have. This was my first professional clarinet. It's a Selmer Series 10S from the late 70s. I kind of retired it over the past few years, partly because it's a little bit of a heavier instrument. I was going to be working in a lot of varied weather conditions, and I didn't want to subject it to cracking. I didn't want to see an old friend go that way. I'd rather see it have a long and useful life. Now, this one was modified by Steve Fox in the late 80s when we were working together at Cosmo Music in Richmond Hill. And he actually installed a permanent bis tab to this. It's actually hard soldered, I guess silver soldered right onto the key here. And at the same time, he also raised the height of my G sharp key so that it feels a bit larger in the hand, a bit more like a bass clarinet grip. It was very, very easy to double this on bass clarinet at the time. I actually like his newer bolt-on version of this key quite a lot better. It sits in a better place. It's ergonomically more comfortable. But this has always been a go-to instrument for playing those kind of passages. And so much of the time on shows, we'll see some crazy trills. You know that if you're playing a flute book, so much of the time in the first page somewhere, you'll have a high G to A trill. You'll see bassoon trills from A flat to B flat, which are just about impossible without some special key work. You'll see clarinet tremolos and trills all the time in concert band music that really are rather difficult on the instrument. The composer doesn't care. They just want to hear what they want to hear. So we've got to try and bridge that. And it's a simple, inexpensive modification you can do to any clarinet. So again, that's the bis key for clarinet, and why it's probably a good idea to have one, especially if you're doing theater music. Thanks for watching the Woodwind Doubling channel. Please subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber, and thank you for doing so. I was finally able to get over the 100 subscribers mark, and that's a nice step on the way to even bigger and better things. So we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.